study together, and we learn together, we work together, and we prosper together. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our viewers joining from around the world. My name is Bernhard Streitwieser, and I'm a professor of international education here in the U.S. In our chat today, sponsored by EducationUSA, we will be discussing college classroom culture in the U.S. and what will be expected of you as students in an American classroom. I'm joined today by Daniela Villalobos from Chile and Ahmad Kurayam from Syria. Hi, guys.
Thank you. Hi.
Who will be able to tell us more about their experiences as international students here in the U.S. Also joining us in the chat box is Anna Chung from Taiwan, who will help to answer any questions we can't get to on the air. So please ask whatever questions you might have for us in the chat or on Twitter using the hashtag #StudyInTheUSA. We're also joined today by a virtual viewing party in Alexandria, Egypt. So let's go to them for our first few questions. Hi, Alexandria. Good to have you with us, and let's take your first question for the panel.
What are the major differences between a high school class and a college class?
Right, so what are the major differences between a high school class and a college class? Maybe Daniela, if you want to take that one.
Well, first of all, when you're in high school, you have to be in school, basically. College is a personal option. What do you want to do with your life? Personally, I think the main difference is the motivation that you have. I'm an undergraduate student in Chile. I studied education, and I decided to come here to the U.S. to improve myself, to improve English, but as a personal option. I think that is one of the main differences between college and high school.
Do you want to take a crack at that, Ahmad?
Yeah, I think for me the difference was how I study, how I prepare do my readings, do my assignments, how I actually care about what I'm doing. You know, in high school, usually you're not in the age to take things really seriously, but when going to the college, you need to go to labs, you need to do a lot of different stuff that we didn't usually do in high school.
The expectations change.
Yeah, the expectations, how serious you're taking stuff, the extra effort that you have to put in every day studying and preparing. So, yes, the time spent on studying and preparing. Yeah.
So the commitment plus the time.
Yeah.
Now, excellent question. Be happy to take another question from the audience in Alexandria.
Okay. I'd like to ask, how should a student react if he's uncomfortable in the classroom, and especially those with disabilities, like physical disabilities and mental disabilities? How are they supposed to react if they are uncomfortable with the classroom?
That's another really important question. How are students that have disabilities or may be uncomfortable in the classroom, how can they react and sort of be involved in the discussion and asking questions? What's a good way for them to feel they're part of the class?
I mean,
and be supported.
Yeah. First of all, all the colleges in here, not just the colleges, transportations, everything, is, let's say, everything is available, everything, they got their own exits and or seats and everything. And here the professors usually, they're really friendly. I mean, they have all the time to get the question, to understand what is the question. If someone cannot really speak or anything, they can find a way, write it on paper, write it on, I don't know, on a laptop or something. So it's really, really comfortable environment here, to deal with the professor, hey, I cannot do this and do that and whatever. And then they'll find a way, to handle it. Yeah.
Any comments on that?
Yes, I think one of the main differences between my experience being a student in Chile and here, and living in the city, how we're living here in Washington, is the respect that you have for the other human being. Unfortunately, we are a developing country in Chile, so we're still learning a lot. But here in the U.S., I'm glad to share the experience that people with any kind of disabilities are part of the community. And you can see that, how Ahmed says, in the transportation, in the daily life, and also in college. All college has the facilities to, since you open the door for people who has troubles or problems with, to elevators, and then in the classroom, everyone would help you and would help the person with any kind of disabilities to be part of the class. And here in the DC area, we have a university just for deaf people.
Right.
What it is a huge improvement, or things that you won't see in other places, at least in Latin America or Chile.
Yeah.
So I'm glad to share that experience with the people in Alexandria, because yes, those people who has any kind of disabilities, physical, mentally, can be part of the community and can be part of the educational community.
Well, thank you both. And thank you for the question from Alexandria. I think a really good and important question. We'll come back to Alexandria later in the program. But for now, let's go to some of the live questions that are coming in from our online viewers. An online viewer asks, how many students are in the average U.S. classroom? Maybe Daniela, you want to take that one?
Yes. I'm a student in a community college. The community college is a 2 years education program that let you, it give you the chance to go to complete your degree, undergraduate degree, or get a certificate. The average students in the classroom is over the 20 students. What it helps the teacher or professor to interact more with the students, have a closer relationship with each of one students in classroom.
Let me just clarify. So you're saying it's the average is over 20, or
it's 20?
It's about 20.
It's
yeah.
about 20. Yes.
That's the same with my experience at George Washington University. The cap in my program is 18 students. How about you, Ahmad?
It's the same, actually. I had about 15 courses, I think, in my program. I did master's in computer science. So I had classes like I got 5 students in there.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and one of the core courses, we had about almost 50. Yeah, but it was a core course, and it's like really competitive course, and it's like a lot of programs share that core course, but the other courses, on average, I can tell it's 20 max, like 20 max on average. But I had classes like where we were just like 5 students.
Sure. So there are outlier cases,
Yes.
many fewer than 20 or many more than 20, but on average,
on
I
average,
think
it's like,
we're all
I'll say
agreeing.
it's 20. Yeah.
And I think that's an important question, because when you're coming from another country, you have the view or the impression that you have thousands of students in just one classroom, and the reality is not. So that helps you as a student and as international students to learn more and have a closer relationship with your professors.
I mean, I should add that in some of the sciences, for example, the hard sciences, in the first, introductory type courses, there can be, large lecture halls with up to 300 students even.
Oh.
But that's again, I think probably not the standard.
Yeah.
It really depends on what program you're in.
Yes.
But our experience, the collective experience, is like 20 average.
20, yes.
So.
Yeah.
So we'll take, at this point, we'll take another online question, and that question asks, do U.S. students like having international students in class with them? And we've got 2 international students here. Let's direct it to them.
Yeah, here in DC area, it's like the culture is so diverse in here. I mean, you don't feel like you're an international here because there's a lot of diversity here in the capital. So there's a lot of international people, not just students, like everyone. Wherever you go in the streets, like you see a lot of people from different countries all over the globe, like all over the world. So here, I think like the U.S. students, they feel like they don't even notice that this is an international student or not. No, they're like used to this cultural.
It's part of the fabric that they
Exactly, it is part of the
with.
fabric.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you don't notice this. And for international students, when I first came in here, I'll talk about my experience. When I first came here, I was like, I felt like I have to be more friendly or just like because I'm an international student and they're not an international student, so I was trying to like be more friendly and be more close. But then I noticed like I don't need to do this because that's it. I'm part of them.
Yeah.
So you feel like you've been like just like you've been friends. There is no international thing. I mean, if you're an international student or local student, it will not really
So this
make any
notion
difference.
of the great melting pot is really true in your
Yeah,
experience.
especially here in the DC area. Yeah.
How about you, Daniela?
Well, in my case, I'm an ESL student. I'm an English second language, so I'm learning English. This is my second semester here, and I'm just with international students. What it can be frustrating at first when you enroll, it's like, oh, I wish to be with Americans. But then you realize how rich, culturally speaking, is your classroom, that you are with students from Saudi Arabia, from Asia, from Latin America, from places that I haven't been before. So I have the chance to share with them, learn maybe a few words in Arabic, learn a few words in Japanese, Korean, whatever, and share my language, or Spanish. So I think that first experience sharing with all those international students is, I'm really glad for it. Really glad.
And I can tell you from my own experience teaching this semester, I've got 4 international students and 12 U.S. students. And the international students bring a whole interesting dimension into the discussion. They bring their experience. You know, they really enrich what we can talk about, and things we read are sort of informed by what they bring to it from their own contexts. So it's a great enrichment and really something we value in American college classrooms. Ahmad, an online viewer, joins us and has a question. In Afghanistan, there is no college. From school, we directly go to a university. What is the difference between a college and a university?
Yeah.
Good question.
Okay. So I'm not sure about Afghanistan, but in my country, we face the same thing. I mean, there's a lot of differences between, we use college, we have the high school, which is before going to college, and then we go to the university. And in my country, the university is like, it's colleges. Okay, so you have the IT college, you have the pharmaceutical college, I don't know, you have the English literature college. So here in the state, they call it schools. So you got the computer science school, you got the engineering school. So the schools here are the college equivalent, let's say, in our country. So I'm not sure if this is the same in Afghanistan, but I think it's the same. So the college is part of the university that is dedicated to teach something specific, like information technology college, public health college. Here in the state, they name it schools. So we got the computer science school, you've got the public health school. So this is it, yeah. So, and here they have in the states, of course, you know, the community college. We don't have this, but we have something equivalent to it, which is a 2-year college, we call it. We don't call it community college. So it's here in the community college, it's like 2 years after high school, go to the and do some program or something. We don't have this really much, but we have something called like an institution, which is 2 years of study. So I think it's equivalent to the community college here.
Daniela, how do you understand the difference between college and university?
Oh, well,
in the US?
In the American educational system, after you finish your high school, you graduate, you have the chance to choose between a junior college, what's also called community college, where our local institution, you don't have to move to another city to join them, and you can get a 2-year certificate or an associate degree, what it means you have the chance to complete a 4 years undergraduate degree. Then you have the college, what is just a 4 years institution, and universities whose provides master's degree and PhD if you want to complete it. Maybe the biggest difference between a college and a community college is how much you pay for it. In a community college, the tuition per year it won't overpass the $9,000. What is compared is at least half of the price that you will pay in a 4-year college or university. So that is, from my experience, basically the differences between each institution.
But I think I'm not sure. I mean, you can correct us. After the high school, you can go to a university for an undergrad.
Yes,
right?
Yes, absolutely.
So it's not just the college for undergrad and university for graduate programs. So
right.
You can, right?
You can, after high school, you can go to college or university, but graduate schooling is only offered through a university.
Okay.
Colleges offer undergraduate bachelor's degrees, and then universities offer master's and PhD programs.
Yeah.
So,
hopefully we answered the question.
but students obviously can go to college or university or community colleges.
Community college.
There are many options. Thank you both. So before we go back to questions, I want to say hi and welcome to the viewing audience in USA, Santa Cruz, Bolivia. Hi there. And thank you for joining us today. So let's have another online question now. Zohair asks, how can I handle tough professors or teachers? How do I deal with sort of very demanding and challenging faculty? Maybe Daniela, you want to take a crack at that one first?
Well, this is a really fun question because I don't think that professors in the U.S. are that tough. How was my experience? How was my experience in
Right.
Chile? Do you have a really close relationship with your professors and teachers? You can just email them. I have this question. I didn't understand this. You can ask in class. So it will really depends how you are doing in class. Of course, if you are not in time, of course, if you don't study, if you prepare yourself for the different tasks, homework, assignments that they gave you, you won't have a good reputation with them. But how we say, we answer in the first questions is, it will really depend which is your motivation to be here. And I'm telling you, my experience I have amazing teachers currently, 3 amazing teachers, and I have a wonderful relationship with them, and I'm really glad to join their classes.
So you take it seriously, you're committed to your work, you show up on time, and
doing
by
my
doing
best
those
with
things, you get a lot of support and positive feedback
Exactly.
from your faculty.
I'm doing my best with the time. Unfortunately, Latin Americans would have a good reputation with the time, but I think I'm trying to face that and change that bad habit. But yes,
And you find your faculty very helpful and supportive.
For sure.
Okay, that's great to hear. What about you, Ahmad, with your experience in a master's program?
Yeah, I think it's different. So for development countries, the relationship between the student and the professor is a little bit too much serious. I mean, if anything went wrong, sometimes the student will be right for something, but the professor, because he's just a professor, he might abuse his authority or something. Sometimes easily you cannot pass the course if you had an argument with professor, even if you're proving your point or anything. So I think that what the question is about is having trouble or tough time with the professor. So sometimes you might be on the right thing, but you cannot do anything. But it's not like here. So here, if if a professor any inappropriate behavior or anything happened, simply you can just go to the dean or go to the coordinator or anywhere you can go and just talk about it. And if the student were right, then the professor will be questioned at what happened and everything. So here the relationship is more friendly. But if anything went wrong, it's really easy just to go to the dean office and be like, hey, I had this and this and this, and the professor did this and that, and then they will set things up. So it's a little bit different than what we have.
I would say students have a real voice. They really have a lot of rights, and faculty pay attention to that, and I think do their best to have a positive relationship in both directions. But students do have a lot of help and support.
Absolutely.
Well, thanks for all these really great questions, and please keep sending them in using the chat or on Twitter using the hashtag #StudyInTheUSA. And don't forget that Anna Chung is also in the chat with us. Let's go back to Alexandria now for a couple of more questions from that audience. So go ahead with your question.
I wanted to ask about how much contribution we should put into studying outside of the lectures. How dependent I should be on those lectures and whatnot. Like, should I spend most of my time studying on my own, or will the lectures be enough?
Okay, that's a great question. How much outside of the lecture are students sort of expected to keep studying and working through the material, and how much might be covered by just going to class? Do you want to take that one, Ahmed?
When I first came in here on the orientation on the first day, the dean of the computer science department, he said something like was really interesting for me. So he was saying, so I came in for a master's program. So the dean was not the dean, sorry. Yeah, it was the dean. So he said the difference between undergrad studies and graduate studies is in undergrad, the school will give more and expect less. But in the graduate programs, the school will give less and expect more. So it depends. If you're doing an undergrad, lectures might be enough. But if you're doing master's program, there will be a lot of research. And in the lecture, actually, we just discussed what we had to read. So every lecture, the professor gives like 3-4 chapters to read, and a lot of researches and a lot of other assignments that would take, I don't know, maybe 10 hours to finish. And then on the other lecture, we'll be like just chatting about what we already did on our own. So it's different from undergrad programs and graduate programs.
Let me interject with a clarification. When you say give more or give less but expect more, what do you mean by give less?
Give less, like we'll teach you less.
Direction.
Yeah, we'll give you less directions. It's like the professor in the graduate program will not just hold the book and start reading and explaining things. No. The graduate student will have to go through this, read it, and next lecture, the coming lecture, if you have any question, if you have anything, we will just talk about it. But the school will be expecting the student to do more study than
the expectation
absorbing the study. Yes,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Daniela, how about with your experience?
Well, I'm a ESL student, so English is in there. I'm surrounded by English speakers all the time. So personally, my experience comparing with Chile is that yes, the teacher will give you the lecture, and that's it. It's up to you if you want to go to the library or not. But my advice for all those students that are watching us now is give your 200%. I mean, don't just expect what the teacher says in classroom, and don't just keep it in your notebooks or your books. Go to the library, spend most of the time that you can in the library, check websites, talk with your classmates about it, because the learning process is not just sitting in the classroom warming up, as it is. What do you do with all the time that you spend in college, in the facilities, and outside the facilities as well? So that is my advice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the message I'm getting is grab the opportunity, work really hard. The support is there, but the expectations are also ramped up as you go further into the education. So I think that's great advice from both of you. Let's take another question from our group in Alexandria.
How are discussions carried out in the classes, and how do they differ from other countries in the world?
That's a good question, and of course, let's be clear, we represent essentially 3 countries, or maybe in my case, I've worked in Germany as well as the US, and you've been in Chile and Syria. The question is, how are discussions carried out in US classrooms, and how might those differ from your countries or in my experience? So how is US discussion in the classroom managed or handled?
We don't really, like, I'm going to talk in Syria, we don't really have those discussion groups. It's not a thing that we usually do. Sometimes we do it, but not all the time. It's different from here. Here it's like every class, almost every class or the other class, we have discussion groups. And at the beginning, for me, I felt a little bit embarrassed, like to go meet people like, hey, I don't know you guys, can we work on this? So I was a little bit embarrassed, but then it turns out like the environment is really comforting. It's really easy to talk with people. It's really, really easy. Nobody will judge a student because of their lack of knowledge or their English level, speaking the language, or anything. So it's really comfortable. So the first time it was a little bit stressed about it, but then, and with the help of the professors, like they divide us into groups. They give us like a guide to work on, questions, so people start talking and stuff. So it's really easier and fun thing to do, and a good way to meet new students. For international student, when I first came in here, like I know no one here. Yeah. So I need to make friends. So this was a great opportunity to meet with groups. And the library here is, it is like a real library where you can spend like 24 hours a day or whatever. And you can eat, you can drink, you can do whatever you want. Sometimes I saw students, like they fall asleep if they're having a PhD thesis or something. They cannot leave basically they have like a lot of books and they're just like crashed on the books because they cannot help it anymore. So it's different here, and it's really, really good opportunity to meet students, and all the facilities available. So yeah.
And how about you with your experience with discussions in the classroom?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember different situations. We usually raise our hands if we want to be heard in the classroom in Chile. What I think is also court the fact that you can speak out. Here in the US, you can do it. You can speak out. You can make that people can hear your voice. Of course, in a respect and friendly environment in the classroom, and the teachers also will respect that. And each student will be able to speak, and if they don't speak, it will be asked by the teacher. And I have the experience currently in one of my classes. So everyone participates in classroom, everyone collaborate with the lecturer. It's not just the teacher who direct the thing, who direct the class. So everyone collaborate. And I 100% agree with Ahmed, is everyone is part of the group, and even though you don't want to be part of the group, you have to deal with your personal fears and speak out.
Yeah, no, I would totally agree with that. I think that's a real distinction between U.S. higher education and maybe many other countries of the world, where there's really, I mean, the students truly do have a voice both in the classroom and in the institution, and there is an expectation on the part of faculty, even in grading in some cases, yes, where participation is also graded. So, yeah, you know, students get a certain percentage of their grade or their final grade based on how much they participated in the classroom. So that is something that we as faculty want students to do, and we encourage that. And you guys both make it clear that the rest of the students also sort of create that environment where discussion is really a major part of going through a course. We've got lots more questions coming in from our online viewers, so this is very good that this is stimulating some debate. Bikalpa from Nepal asks, if you are the only student from your country, how difficult will it be to adjust to the college community? Maybe you were sort of talking about that earlier from Jordan.
It wasn't that bad, actually, at the beginning, because, as what I said, it's really friendly environment in here. Like, even if you didn't talk to anyone, you'll find someone like, hey, can I have a pen? And just asking for a pen is enough to start a conversation that would last for 3 hours. It's really that simple, that easy. And students here are really like, okay, so George Washington in the computer science department, it's like really there's a lot of international students. Like I think about 80% international students, yeah. So all of them, they're sharing the same feelings, the same hard time. They just want to talk with anyone. They just want to be friend with anyone. I mean, it's always better to have a friend who speaks your language. It would be a little bit easier. You feel like a little bit home because it's like really far away.
Sure.
So it's always good to have like friends from the same culture, but at the same time, for like my personal point of view on this, it's not good like to stick to the same culture friends. Right. I mean,
get out of
it's
your
a
group.
good opportunity like to get to know the different culture, different things from what we used to do. So I think it's always better to have someone, but if you don't have any, it's not that big. If you don't have any student from your country, it's
so it
not
didn't
big.
take you very long at all to make new friends.
And here in Washington, D.C., in this area, absolutely you'll find
Yeah.
someone from the same country who speaks the same language, no matter where from the world.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
No, that's,
Yes.
that's for sure. Daniela, how about you?
I feel this question in my bones because I'm the only student from Chile in my classroom for the last first and second semester here. I have others classmates that speak Spanish. It's not the same because we have a special accent and special traditions, cultural differences. But taking your words, you have to be able to talk with other people. You have to be able and open to share with other cultures. Your decision to leave your home country to learn anything that you want to learn here in the U.S. also implies a sacrifice that you won't share that much time with your country fellows. But I think that is a huge opportunity that everyone has. Of course, you will feel homesick. You will miss your family. You will miss your friends. But you will have, hopefully, a new family here, the friends. So it's not the end of the world. And
I mean, you both find the culture in the classroom and at your institutions welcoming.
For
Yeah.
sure.
For sure,
sure.
absolutely, absolutely, and especially like universities who take a lot of international students, they really take care of this. They really care about this cultural gap.
Yes.
Between. So when we first came in here, we had it like in the orientation day. We had a session like for an hour or 2 hours, like a panel, just how to overcome this gap, what to do if you feel depressed or anything. And there's like a specialist who you can talk with, and they really understand this. And here in the universities here in this area, I don't know about the others, but I think it's the same. So they really care about this gap, and you'll find someone to help.
And one thing, everyone who's an international students, we pass for the same steps. We have for the same phases. So if you talk with another international student, English or your own language, and share this, I think that is the best thing that you can do. Share how you feel, share what is happening with you, and try to find a common, something that makes you feel like, yes, I'm not the only one, and try to overpass. And when you overpass it, you are free to be open to to American culture and your class culture.
Well, thank you both. Let's take another. We've got another question that's come in. A viewer asks, do I need to be on time to class, or is it okay to come in late? And you've sort of touched on that a little bit, Daniela, from comparing Chile and the U.S. Maybe talk about that.
Well, here in the U.S., I think that is an important thing to be on time. Americans appreciate enormously to be on time. And I think when you show up 10 minutes before the class starts and the teacher or professor see you sitting there reading, talking with your classmates, or in the classroom, they will say, oh, this student is taking serious their own education. Let's go and do my best. When you show up late to class, you create a reputation. Oh, this person doesn't appreciate that much what is happening in the classroom. So at the end of the semester, if you check your degrees, oh, I have, I don't know, a C or a B because I was late all the time. So professors and your classmates as well appreciate the fact you're on time.
Ahmad, would you add anything to that?
I think it depends on the professor, actually. Because I had courses where the professor just leave the class door open. Anyone can come in at any time, and you can leave at any time, and it's really like it's fine for him. Like, you want to attend the class, you can attend it. You don't want to attend it, it's really fine, and it will not affect anything. And
this is in the U.S.
Yes, I got like 2 courses, but the course was really important that if you miss the second, you need like to go back and read for 2 hours just to make the second. So all the students were on time, nobody leaves, but you got the option, right?
Well, sure, you're not chained to your chair.
Exactly, yeah.
But I mean, at the end, it's what you do and the grades you earn are going to, that's going to count.
And I took another course with another professor, and that professor was like, I will take the attendance every class, and if you miss like 2 classes in the semester or 3 classes, I don't know, you're gonna lose a couple of grades or something like this.
Yeah.
So I think it's more like what the professor prefers.
In my experience as a professor, I definitely value students coming in on time. I find it disrespectful, actually, if students show up late. And I don't know if I would mark off specifically, I don't have it in my syllabus, that you lose points if you're coming late every day. But if students miss class, they have to make up the class by turning in a paper on what we've read. So I have high expectations for students being there every class, showing they've done the readings, coming on time, and I hold them to that.
And I need to add
it's important to me.
I need to add something else. As international students, we are regulated. We cannot miss a certain amounts of classes. So the first day, you have to talk with your teachers and check what they're expecting from you, what the college is expecting from you. So they give you, I don't remember the name in this moment, but they give you how % you can miss of class or be late. So also that is important that you have to show up the first day of class. So all that important information, office information, it will give it to you that day. So we have a special visa, and we have to also complete some certain tasks that the college requires.
Okay. These are great questions, and please keep them coming in by using the chat space on the page or by Twitter using the hashtag #StudyInTheUSA. And don't forget that Anna Chung is in the chat space to help you answer your questions as well. Mariana, watching from the viewing party in Bolivia, wants to know, how much freedom is there for students to choose what courses to take? That is a very good question, and let's direct that. Ahmad, you want to begin?
Yeah. So it depends on the program, I think. But for my program, I had out of 13 courses to finish, I got 3 of these courses, which is the core courses that I have to take. It's not optional, it's not elective, not at all. So it's like 3 courses, core courses, I have to take it. And then I got a list that contains about 20 different courses that I have to pick up around 8, I think, or 7 courses out of this list. And then I got 2 courses that I can choose from any school in the university. It shouldn't be related to what I'm studying. I know people. I know one of my friends, he did Masters in Information Management, and he took a class in Architect and a class in International Policy. It interests him. So yeah, there's core courses.
Those credits count toward your final count.
Yes, yes. So it's like core courses, and then
electives,
and then you got 6 credits maybe sometimes. You can choose from any school in the university, even if it's not even related to what you're doing.
I mean, it's important to keep in mind that different schools will have different sort of requirements for the number of credits and where you can pick up different courses and how you can put those together for the final degree.
Exactly.
But there is generally also, as you mentioned, Ahmad, quite a bit of flexibility. Any comments on that from you, Daniela?
Well, as a ESL student, we have to check first which our English level is. So it will really depends which class you have to take, depending of your English level. But certainly you have the freedom to choose. I'm thinking of after I will finish my English classes, I will be able to take credit classes. I have to complete 60 credits, and it will also depends from which field do I want to study. But even though you have the chance to, I don't know, if you want to learn about geology, take a class, Introduction to Geology, if you want to, and complete those credits. If you want to learn psychology, go and take Introduction to Psychology. So yes, you have the chance to create your own career finally. Choose the classes that are making comfortable and explore other areas. Maybe, I don't know, the area that you choose in the first moment is not making you happy. Let's go and try this other thing. So you have for sure freedom to choose.
Thank you. Let's go back to Alexandria, where the group there has some more questions. Alexandria, we'll take another question or two.
Go, Masar, go.
مش هيجيبني؟
Yeah.
I wanted to know how flexible is the deadline for handing in assignments?
Good question. How flexible is the deadline when things are due for handing in work assignments?
It's not flexible at all. You cannot mess with the deadline. It's like, it's really, 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 I mean, it happened once to me, and because there's like the conflict in Syria, so that was an excuse.
Sure.
Like to have another day.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's really, really, really hard to pass the due date. The due date, the deadline is a deadline. And I know professors, like, if you miss a second, which is like, they say midnight. So if you submit the homework on Blackboard or something, like after a second, that's it. You're going to lose the penalty marks or whatever. So no, no, it's so strict.
And one thing I have to add to this is everyone knows that which is going to be the special date.
Right.
Everyone, from the first day of class, the teachers or the professors will say, this is our schedule, this is the day, the D-Day. so everyone knows, and you don't have excuse. You don't have excuse to don't submit your, or give the hard paper to the professor, because that is the reason why you are here.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's absolutely correct.
Except if you have an emergency, a real emergency, that you cannot do it, but you have to.
You know, and let me just add to that. One of the reasons, as a faculty member, for me, it's very important that students bring their work in on time, is because I'm essentially training people to be professionals. And if students are putting in papers for a journal, and there's a specific date by which that journal needs to get all their submissions, they don't have any tolerance for something coming in late. You don't get in on time, you're done. Or for a grant, even more importantly, professionals have to put a lot of grant applications in to keep funding coming in, and those organizations have zero tolerance for something being late. If it's late, it just doesn't get considered. So in my job to train people to become professionals when they graduate, I need to hold them to those standards that the real world will hold them to.
Exactly.
And that's the reason I do it, and I can't be flexible on that. So you both support exactly what I feel as well. Alexandria, we'd love to take another question from the audience in Alexandria. We've got some more time. Is there a question from Alexandria? Oh, good.
What is the difference between a professor, an associate professor, and a TA, and what are their roles?
Okay, good question. What are the differences between an associate professor, a full professor, and a teaching assistant, or TA? And I'll take that question since I'm the professor on the panel. A TA is what's called a teaching assistant. It's generally a postdoc. That's someone who's gotten their PhD and is at the university working on research. They might serve as a teaching assistant, or it could also be a PhD student who is being trained to become a faculty member in many cases, and they're getting the experience to work as the assistant to the faculty member, to the professor. An assistant professor, what I am, is someone who's on the tenure track. So that is, we have a certain amount of time to publish a lot and to go to conferences, to get our name and our reputation out there. And then we are up for what's called tenure, which is the decision whether the university will keep us for the remainder of our career, or whether they would prefer that we go to another institution. So an assistant professor is on the way to trying to get tenure, which then gives them sort of safer and more protected status as a faculty member. And then a full professor or an associate professor is post-tenure. So once a faculty member has been given tenure by their institution and has the support to stay, then they're an associate, and eventually by publishing more, by becoming more well-known, they eventually can go up for promotion to full professor. So those are the different levels.
So I have a question. When you graduate as a PhD student, okay, what is the title after you finish your PhD studies? Is it like you'll become professor or PhD, just like...
You're a doctorate.
You
have a doctor.
Okay, but
you have a doctor title. So in Germany, you're referred to then as Dr. So-and-so. In the U.S., only medical doctors are referred to as doctor in most cases. But I mean, at universities, it is okay to call someone who has a PhD doctor so-and-so. But in the general public, doctors are medical
It's like for
professionals
medical
generally. Whereas in Europe and perhaps in Syria and Chile, I don't know what the conventions
Yeah, that's why
are.
I'm asking, because like even for me, I don't really know the differences between like professor and assistant professor. So yeah, I think this
But
is
a PhD is the doctor title, essentially.
Okay.
And then a professor
But
is once
sometimes
you're
they call
hired.
him prof, like prof. I don't know.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I mean, you're a professor once you're hired by a university to be on a tenure track or at some level where they designate you with the professor title. I mean, you could be a research professor, professor of teaching, assistant professor. There are many, many different